So welcome everybody, and it's good to see you. It's the first, no, it's actually the second, but I forgot about the first one, a workshop on communications. And one of the things why we have organized this is because, well, we have a few programs here, a few people from the different programs, I have to say. So one of them is the DSS Water, which is an expert program on sending out people, water experts into the field in emergency situations. Then we have MHPSS, which is very similar, same structure, but we work with MHPSS, mental health and psychosocial support experts. Sorry for the jargon that I use sometimes. And we started this program last year. And then we also have here people from the DRR team, the Dutch risk reduction team. And that was actually the predecessor of DSS, the DSS programs. We started with that one first because that was the easy part, as we already were in contact with many people of the water sector, and not so much, hey Arjen, it's not so much in the humanitarian sector. So the humanitarian sector is a bit different from the regular things that we do. But anyway, it's very much linked, and there is so much overlap with, well, often we talk about humanitarian and development. I think we're all in a nexus because there's a lot of connection there. What we do today is communications. Why? Because for various reasons. And the different programs have different goals. So that also the communication goals are a bit different. But mostly we would like to showcase better what we do and make it a personal story as well. So it's not just about the situation in the country, because you can read that in many newspapers or on social media, but it's also the situation in the country from the perspective of the refugee or the people who are there. And most of the time you as an expert are present. So also your opinion or your view is very important to showcase, which limits us, of course, in a few ways, and that you will hear also during the course. Taking photos and sharing them on social media of victims is not what we would like. So that is something that we have to take into account. One of the other goals is also that we would like to showcase also the expertise that we have in on the different topics. So on MHPSS, for example, MHPSS is one of the topics that has really been become part of the humanitarian agenda over the last year. And we have a very nice advocate in that sense in our Minister Kaag. Because she has really put a lot of efforts into putting MHPSS on the agenda internationally. So that is very nice also to support the lobby and advocacy on bringing MHPSS more to the front page of the humanitarian interventions, and we can help the people who are advocating at a higher level with the practical examples from the field. That is very strong to support. And then of course we have a lot of water expertise in the Netherlands as well, and that is also something that we would like to showcase also internationally, but also nationally. Internationally, why? Because well, we for example with DRR team we have two sub goals. First one also is always to alleviate the suffering of people in the situation they're in. But the second one is also with DRR team that we have a goal to show what the Netherlands water sector can do. And that is never on the forefront, but it's nice as a secondary goal to also pick up. And it also benefits people who don't know that we have the expertise, so they can see what they can also find with us in a stage when they're in need of that expertise. Yeah, so there are many important ways to use the communication as such, and how to do it. Is I leave it up to the experts that are here. So Rolf, Ilona, all the the people who know better. What I would like to stress more is also that you often think that you do not have a story, but you do. And yeah, please keep that in mind. It's just that we have to find a way how to do it. And I'm the worst person to actually advocate on this, because I don't like communications myself so much, but I'm learning as well. So let's just go for it, and good luck this afternoon. And please also give your feedback in the end, because we're very, yeah, we would really like to hear from you. Also, the opportunities that you see in the field, sometimes you don't know if you can actually communicate about them. Also, please come back to us in the WhatsApp group or any of the other communication means that we have, and ask us, and we will support you with it. I'll leave it there.
Thank you, Sandra. So Sandra as DSS coordinator. We also have we also have Michel on the call, the DRR coordinator. Hi, Michel.
Hello, Ruben. Hi to you all. Indeed, thank you very much. Keep it short. My name is Michel de Zwart, and indeed, I'm coordinating the Dutch Risk Reduction Team program. And for those among you who are not too familiar with the program, the difference between the Dutch support, which is focused indeed on humanitarian aid, DRR team focuses more on how to plan interventions on structural water-related problems like floodings, including laying the foundation for master planning, cooperating with authorities on improved governance models, and on also plugging in very high-end specific technical expertise from the Netherlands in to do assessments on the water stress factors, and to co-create plan making in that sense. It is up to the authorities who apply for DRR team assistance to secure the follow-up. And of course, we would love to be then as a program also involved in co-thinking with them on how to proceed with those.
Give the floor to Rolf. He will tell something about the importance on communications and the policy from the Dutch government. Please, Rolf, go ahead.
Yes, thank you very much, Ilona, and good afternoon, everybody. I must say I feel a bit humbled with all these people, a lot of them around the world. Actually, I was in a virtual visit to Burkina Faso, and I'm going to return to it after my introduction. But I'm, as I said in the Mentimeter, I'm a policy advisor at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and I was asked to maybe sketch a bit our view on Dutch policy and the relevance of communication. And I was just thinking that these two terms in themselves are very broad and rather difficult to communicate. And that's and I think the challenge we all face is to make things understandable for your mother or for your neighbor, and to make it because everybody thinks of himself or is used to his own bubble to communicate in. But I mean, there's a lot of people who are not aware of what you're doing, and that is something which is, I think, a challenge for everyone, whether it's you're in the policy business like I am, or whether you are in the field. And that's, I thought, to paraphrase Einstein, a genius is making complex issues simple and not making simple issues complex. I think that is very good to keep in mind. So it's also good to think about outside the box and not to expect a lot of knowledge from other people, the people who you are aware of. But coming back to policy, I think for us as the ministry and communication by you is that DSS, the activities of DSS, whether it's water or MHPSS or disaster risk reduction, it's a part of Dutch policy, and I think that is something which we hope it resonates, or which comes back in the communication, not as the first message, because that is not what people are interested in, but you have to realize that there's the interest of our ministry is to show that it is a part of Dutch policy. And in that case, and I hear what Sandra was saying about the nexus and everything and what you have, but about it, our focus is on humanitarian policy, and that policy is about what you are working on, and what we are thinking of is to help save lives and to alleviate needs in emergency settings. And just for you, it's our challenge is that in communications, or what people think, it's all about money. It's about the Ministry of Foreign Affairs providing funding for aid, but I think the best thing is that we share an objective that is to help people, and that's what we do with diplomacy and policy, and by enabling organizations to do their work in the humanitarian field. So as far as diplomacy and the basics of the policy is, it's about principled aid, and this is what we do, and it's about the effectiveness of aid. I won't go into that in detail, but I can share information if you want. And as far as financing is concerned, what we do is we enable the United Nations organizations, the Red Cross, a number of Dutch organizations to implement programs, and part of this, a rather small part, is the DSS program. So as far as I was just thinking about what I think a basic communications is as far as the Netherlands is concerned. I mean, it's that humanitarian aid or a policy, it's about its policy and its public policy. So that is, the work we do is not charity. I think it's we should express that it is a profession, and that it's being done professionally. A lot of people think it's charity and it's something you do on the side, but I think that it's very key, whether it's on the policy side or your side, is to explain or to show that it is a profession, and in a sense it's also a part of international cooperation. I think that's for us very important to show that it is, we can only do this together, and that is why we have this system. Whether it works always is another question, but it is about cooperating, and whether it's in UN, Red Cross, NGOs, what have you. Now, as far as communication is concerned, I would say, I already said it, but we hope that in your communications something resonates, like it's our interest that it's part of policy. But as far as some key issues on communications is, one is that its communication is more than just a nice piece in the newspaper, which is difficult as such to establish, but it's about telling your own story, and it's also about being aware of to whom you are talking, or to whom you are talking. You want to tell your story, because I think that's very key to communicate effectively. I think that is a key issue. And another thing is that you should take your audience seriously. I mean, it's the fact that they don't know things does not make them stupid. Then some issues, it's about in your communication to be and to plan it. I mean, I think I was if we talk about missions,
could I ask you to
yeah, I will to plan it, and to think about what you do, why you do what you do, how you do what you do, for whom and with whom you do what you do, why it is relevant for the other, and it's all about people. It's about you, and it's about people, because that's what comes across when it's about communication. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That's a nice final quote. It's about the people. Then I give the floor to, we'll move on to Ilona. Who will,
yes, thank you very much. Due to the remaining time, I will keep my story short. I think a lot has been said by Sandra as well as by Rolf. It's really great to see you all. I know a lot of people here, but never met you. Well, of course, it's now online, but I'm Ilona Dessing, Communication Advisor at RVO, especially for programs such as DSS Water, MHPSS, and DRR. And I see a lot of names whom I've worked with in the recent years, made stories, or was in contact with. So good to meet you all. And I will briefly tell you something about the communications at RVO and how we do things. I would like to emphasize that after the workshop, we still facilitate and support you all in communication. So we do not expect you to do all it by yourself, but as all our programs are, we work together, we are partners, so also in communication. I think that's very important to say, and we're here to help you, to give you some tips and tricks. At RVO, we work with teams, so we have a communication calendar, and each month has its own theme. Just like in 2020, December is the humanitarian aid month, but it doesn't say that we don't communicate about our work in other months. So for example, in March was the month of gender, and we made a lovely story together with Terry on the increasing number of female experts in humanitarian aid. This month, for example, is the month about partnerships for the goals. So that's SDG 17. If you all know the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, and we told a story about the partnership with UNDP, the Port of Rotterdam, and the Dutch government in the ports of Yemen. So each month has opportunities to communicate about our work. There, of course, are many ways to communicate. You can write a story or a blog, a personal story about 350 words, so not too long, to make it catchy and short so people will read it. Of course, you can make videos, and photos are very important in communication, because one good picture tells more than 1,000 words. And we're here to help you in making better pictures, making a vlog of yourself if you dare. Not everyone is too keen on that, but it's a nice way. I saw Sarah is here as well. She did it for MHPSS last year. And it did very well with interaction on social media. So in the next hour, Marij Zwart and Arnold van het Veld, experts, they will tell more about their communication experience in the last few years and how they approach it. And well, we hope they can inspire you. Of course, feel free to ask questions. And share your own ideas in the upcoming about 15 minutes. And after the experts, our own experts, other kind of experts, but experts on social media and visuals will tell you more about the tips and tricks. Again, feel free to ask questions and share your ideas. And as said, I would like to emphasize that we do not ask you to become experts on communications, but the input you can give us is very important for us, because you are actually in the field working with the people, see what the effect of the partnerships with the humanitarian organizations and local initiatives are. So if you have any questions also after this workshop, please feel free to contact me or us. I'm also in the WhatsApp groups of MHPSS and DSS Water. If you have a communication question, please ask there, or just contact me in person by email. So
right.
It's short.
Very much.
And I'd like to give the floor to Arnold first, and ask Miriam to share the second slide of the presentation, just to give some examples of Arnold's communication in the last few years. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ilona. Well, so I was asked by Ilona to give a little bit of an introduction about myself, but afterwards we can have a discussion. So you can ask questions about my period, about my social media experience, etc. But first, something about myself. I'm Arnold. I'm working already 6 years, mostly in the Netherlands as a consultant urban water management. But last year, or actually in 2019, I've been working for DSS Water as an hydraulic engineer in Bangladesh, and I was working there in a refugee camp of 1 million people, and helping them with designing the drainage system. And that was for a period of 3 months. So I quit all my projects in the Netherlands, which I was doing for Nederlands Schuurmans, and I was sent by RVO for a total other project. And because I'm working for a company, I wanted also to, well, make sure that I had 3 objectives for myself. First, I wanted to show to my colleagues, to my boss, to other people, what kind of work I was doing when I was outside in another country. And one of the communication platforms for that is, of course, the internal email, but also a lot of my colleagues are just watching on LinkedIn what is happening over there. So I thought, okay, I have to share every now and then what I'm doing. My second objective also was, because I was quitting a lot of projects, I had also customers in the Netherlands, which I would like to be part of my mission. So when I could share about what I was doing in a foreign country, they were a little bit part of that mission as well, because they were stuck with their project, or they had to handle with somebody else who was dealing with their project. So they had to switch. It does also cost some energy from them. So also they were a little bit part of my project because they were still in the Netherlands. And lastly, well, of course, you have colleagues, friends, etc., which are maybe all over the world, or maybe only in your home country. And I really wanted to, well, tell them, oh, how is it going? What am I doing? And to keep them updated in a sort of a way. So that were sort of 3 of my objectives. So to keep the company updated, to keep my clients in the Netherlands up to date, but also keep my friends and colleagues up to date, and just to share my story with them. And I'm very interested in what kind of questions you have about my period in Bangladesh and the communication.
All right. Any questions for Arnold at this moment, or otherwise we'll move on to the next experience. Were there any sensitive issues, Patrick Smeets asked?
Well, I haven't really encountered it during my period in Bangladesh, but I think during the safety briefing, the safety advisor emphasized for us that we needed to ask people if we would like to take a picture, if they agreed on it or not. And that was actually the only thing. So it was quite relaxed, and as soon as people see that you're taking pictures, they mostly smiled, they were enthusiastic. So I didn't really encounter sensitivity issues, but I think it's always good to ask. If you really take pictures of people and not of the drainage system, for example, then I think it's good to ask. Yeah.
I have a question for you, Arnold.
Yeah.
Yeah. What did you gain from it to post it on social media? What were the upsides of it?
Well, so my company was sending me to the other side of the world, which was not only, it did cost the company something, because I wasn't able to do projects in the Netherlands, which earn a little bit more than going for a humanitarian project. So one of the gains for me was to keep my boss up to date and to show them, well, I appreciate that I can go abroad And I appreciate it by, well, linking your name to it. So what you see in one of the texts is, vorig jaar heb ik namens Nele en Schuurmans, which is saying last year I was for my company in the outside. So that was one thing. And the second thing was that when I came back in the Netherlands, people did know a little bit about my story. And I felt that they were, although I didn't speak with them, they were still up to date about what I did on the other side of the world. And they enjoyed reading it. And that's very nice. If you come back to a place and they know about your story, yeah, I was quite enthusiastic about sharing that experience with them. And then we could talk about it. Well, probably if I didn't send something online, then most of the time people don't really know what to ask about it. And then the topic is a little bit more difficult to talk about.
We have a question in the chat as well from Dick van Berg, who asks, how did you deal with Bangladesh?
Sorry, could you repeat?
Or maybe Dick can elaborate on it, but the question is, how did you deal with Bangladesh, I assume?
No. Sorry. No, I want to ask. Hello, hi, it's Dick here. I worked a lot in Bangladesh, and especially if you work in the villages, people are not speaking English, so you have to deal with the language, with Bangla, and also so how did you do that in communication?
Oh, well, that was maybe a little bit different for me than for you, because I was mostly working with the UNHCR, and I was mainly an expert on water. So the people around me were people that did speak English actually perfectly, maybe even better than I.
Okay.
I think the standard and the expert level in UNHCR is also quite high. So one of the people I name is Sultan Mohammed, or Sultan Mahmoud, sorry. And he was a site planner. His English was really perfect. He was very educated, had a university background from Bangladesh itself, and that is just one example of the people I met there.
So did you do any social media communication to Bangladesh? Let's say that this was very much focused on the Netherlands, but maybe to Bangladesh itself? No.
My communication was really focused on the Dutch readers, audience.
But interesting, thank you.
Freek Hutto from HKV asks, were you on this mission alone?
Yes, I was on this mission alone. Yeah. So I was sent there, and then of course when you're there, you become part of the team.
Yes, and indeed, I was asking this question basically with the thought behind it. Of how to communicate. So you can communicate on behalf of a team, or on behalf of the mission, or from your personal perspective. So, and I think briefly going through here, these are all from a personal perspective, but that also explains it if you were there alone. So I was kind of wondering what kind of choices you made there.
Yeah, of course. If you're going by team, then you're sharing maybe also from a different perspective, but as long as what you're sharing is aligned with what you think of the team, what RVO is sending. Well, when I was sent, RVO said to me, well, please try to do something which is not only for that period there, so that you are just the hands that help along building the camp, but that you also leave something behind if you go back to the Netherlands. So I tried to make a drainage design toolbox, which is still in Bangladesh, and Sultan can still use it. Then I always try to speak from myself as a person, because I feel like if you're talking from your own heart and from your own motivation and your own passion, people are more likely to read it and find it more interesting to read it. I'm not sure if that it is 100% true what I'm saying, but that was my feeling when I was there. And that's, I think, why I choose to tell all the stories from just my view.
Thanks. Are there any more questions? You can just open your mic as well and ask directly.
How did you explain drainage systems to people who do not grasp the concept? Well, that's a nice question. I always try to make it as simple as possible by saying, well, water moves from up to down. So if you're trying to build a drainage system, try to build it in the lowest point because the water will always go there. And I think that's the most short explanation I can give. So build it along the slope of the hill and the water will automatically go there.
That's fine.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. And my other question was regarding the sensitivity issues, not necessarily the cultural sensitivity, but more internally within the UN. For example, emails, presentations.
Yeah. I think that I tried to do was to share the things which I built myself. And I tried to limit the amount of information which was from the UN or which was sensitive or where you can see other kind of information which you couldn't find online just by looking at Google Maps, for example. So in all the pictures also you see here, except for the one with the 4 people on it, which are really saying, oh, well, let's take a picture together, was always that there are not really people visible, or that it's visible that there is some important spots or whatever. It's always linked to my topic, which is the drainage system. The drainage system is not really sensitive.
Right. Thank you very much, Arnold. If you have further questions for Arnold, we can you can ask it later in discussion. And now we'll move on to the second experience from the field. We'll move to Marij Zwart.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so my name is Marij, and I think also I know quite a number of the participants today. It's very nice to see you. So I currently work as a wash advisor with the Netherlands Red Cross. But before that, I just started in March this year. I did quite some DSS missions. So I went to Bangladesh with Red Cross and with UNHCR. No, I went to Bangladesh with Red Cross and UNHCR, and Mozambique with UNICEF, Bahamas, that was me, with UNICEF, and Brazil also. Yeah, I always worked as an independent consultant. So that's a bit different from Arnold's story, obviously. And also, I heard a bit of an echo. Like my approach has been a bit different because I think I've been always a bit less proactive, specifically compared to Arnold, right? With the personal blog and very regional approach to this. But actually I did have quite some communication output for my missions, but that was really more demand driven. So always when I was somewhere, at some point Ilona or somebody would reach out to me like, hey, do we have a story? And then I would always say yes, because I think like, first of all, like why, if you ask why, I think it's also part of our job, right? Like to give visuality to what we're doing because it's donor money driven. But I think it's also always in the benefit of the people you're trying to help to make sure their story is heard. So I think that's sort of what you want to do, to give attention, to increase attention to the specific emergency where you're working. But also really, like what was said, like for your mother, right? For my mother, for my family. Like in a way, I sometimes felt that I was actually being helped by the communication team by talking about my work to close people and further away people, because I mean, generally when you produce content together with the communication team, you basically tell your story, but those people, they have skills, they know how to tell and to communicate, so it's always easier. You get a way better story from that than I can use again for my personal gain, because as Arnold also said, it's nice when you have some aid in letting people close to you know in a very easy way what you're doing, but also professionally. Like if you're working as an independent consultant, it is actually advertisement for yourself, right? It's when you put such a nice story on LinkedIn or anywhere, you use it to sell yourself. And actually, that was also DSS. It's not shown on this slide, but actually one story that was written on my work with the British Red Cross actually led to me being invited to be a guest lecturer at IHE. So things come from content like this. Like what I said, that I have been not so proactive, but the only thing that I've been proactive in is always trying to make sure to have, doesn't need to be a lot, but a few good pictures. And this is not about when you go on a field trip or you're doing your work that you're constantly making pictures and like that's the objective, not at all. And it's also not required, because I think if you have 1 or 2 or 3 good pictures, that's more than enough. And with a good picture, we discussed it already a bit, that you have to make sure that if there's people on it, that they give their consent, right? That they agree, that they want to be there. And it's always nicer to have the context and you. And then when you have proper pictures, I think you're already halfway. And then before we move to questions, I think like at the beginning, Sandra said like you always have a story. And yes, I think everybody always has a story. When you have basic pictures from yourself, you're halfway. And then what I always use as well, when I get a request or got a request from Ilona, that you can, for the narrative and the storyline, you can always use tools that you're working in your job, that you're using in your job, like SITREP, the situation reports that are shared in the cluster, or maybe appeal text. I mean, a lot of short, clear, descriptive text are going around when you're working in an emergency context generally, and you can just take them and add your personal story. And that's the last thing I wanted to say, which I really liked from basically all these texts that were produced together with the airfield communication team, is that it was always, there was space to be personal and honest. So for example, the Bahamas case, I was so proud of Build Back Better water system that we built back on solar energy. And there was a big celebration actually to celebrate that we were building back the system sustainably, and it was good. But also in Mozambique, I think, I'm not sure if this text, but there's one interview with me in Mozambique, and the first sentence is, Marij is angry today. And I was super angry because coordination was crap and there were so many issues. And it's, I think it's very nice when you have the freedom to tell the story that's real for you at that moment. And yeah, just to share about our work and to give visibility.
If I may interrupt you, Marij, I think that's spot on. It doesn't always have to be the most positive story. It has to be the right story, the real story, and that makes it your story. And of course, you can also have a day that's not a good day, and that makes you human. And that's, I think, the most important part of your jobs, and of course my job, or even more your job. And that's what makes the story interesting and real. So that's really good that you said that. Because a lot of people are scared about telling that side of a story. Yeah, well, it's actually really nice, huh? If you can help and support in telling that story in a good way, also a beneficial way, right? Like it's not about just going and like, this is crap job and nobody's doing anything here. It's not about that, but it's sort of addressing difficulties and raising attention. Yeah, great. So, yeah, so I think that's what I wanted to say. So I don't know if there's any.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
I think you're doing a great job. I mean, I also have seen your stories run by several times. So great examples. Are there any questions for Marij? You can put them in the chat, but you can also just open your mic and get in there. If I may start, you said it's very important, or you only need like 1, 2, 3 good pictures. But how do you personally decide what is a good picture? Do you have a feeling with it? Is it experience or
yeah, you know, I mean, maybe that is also like when we had a quick preparation call for this meeting, we also had that discussion with Miriam and Ilona, like maybe there is a little bit of a generation thing as well, that younger people are a bit more, like a little bit younger, I'm also 30 something, but a little bit more inclined to, I mean, I think that influencer culture is that you constantly put yourself in you're constantly selling yourself. And that's of course not the objective, but I think that just by thinking about what types of pictures are cool to share with your friends and family, like sitting in like in the screen, like in basically a tree that's used as a boat with 4 people and then with a motor in it as well. I mean, I think that is a sort of communicative image. It's not something that I would normally do. Whereas in Brazil, the last mission that I did, it was remote, and then you're sitting behind your laptop the whole day in a different time zone, and then it's so much more difficult then to find an interesting picture. So I would say generally the pictures that are the moments that are special to you, that you're proud of as well. I think that you're a little bit like energized. I think there's a very small picture in the middle of the slide, and you see many, many people and me, and you don't see me because it's so small, but that was the staff of our, the British Red Cross when we were constructing a wastewater treatment plant. And we did that job in a short time with like 80 people, and this was our celebration moment, right? So that was a picture like, yeah, we did it. And that's a picture I want for myself, but that's also very communicative. So maybe the answer is when you really want a picture for yourself, it's generally a good communicative picture as well.
That's good advice. All right. Any other questions for Marij?
Yeah, and maybe because that's not a question, but to add to Marij, I also encountered that I was sitting on my laptop a lot of times, and then sometimes I just use the map I made as a picture with nice colors, and you don't see a lot, but it is attractive because there are nice colors on it, right? Yeah. So it doesn't need to be a picture; it does need to an image is good enough, and could even be an image which is not it's just explaining what you're doing and not really.
No, exactly. Like specifically in the case, I can imagine with your like flood risk maps and stuff, then it's the picture also really your work, huh? So then your story really relates to that map or picture. So yeah, that makes sense. I think in my case, it would have been maybe, so from Brazil, I found it very difficult to produce any content because it was just wash coordination, and like you don't really, it's not very attractive to send to make a tweet post with some you know, like partnership presence map or something. Doesn't tell anyone anything.
Dick van Berg in the chat says that infographics can also be very powerful as an image. So that's a good point. All right. Any questions? Otherwise, we're going to move on to the technical part. Or technical part, at least you can ask your more practical questions. All right. Thank you very much, Marij and Arnold. You will probably stick around also for the discussion later, so feel free to contribute there. Then we're now going to move on to some of our colleagues at the communication department, who will share some technical tips and tricks for videos, photos, use of social media. I think I can give the floor to Patrick Bus, Shireen Verhagen, Mila Bahadur.
Yes, I think it's going to be me.
All right. Great.
Okay. Well, actually, hi. My name is Patrick Bus. My background is I have a master's in film and television studies. Currently, I'm working at the RVO as the video expert. The problem is now we have here cool tips and tricks, but you can basically get all of them at YouTube. and I've been listening to the other stories, so I kind of want to interact with what the field workers were saying while during at the mission. So I wrote some stuff down. One of them is basically when you do video, there are two things that you have to think about. One of them is narrative, storytelling. That's very important. And the second thing is actually the technical part. And the thing with storytelling is, which is very important, it's not about information. You're not conveying information. Well, that's the first part, but what you actually are doing is trying to creating empathy for the viewer. That's the most important thing, and identification and being personal. Like what the field workers were saying, being personal is, I think, the best way of creating empathy and creating identification. Like, hey, that story, I can really relate to that, even though it's far, far away. But that's how you actually can convey the message. And in terms of government and all that, people are very detailed in their work, which is of course logical, but video is not about being detailed. It's about being personal. It's actually about being vulnerable. It's actually about being yourself, whatever that is, within your profession, within a professional context. So in terms of the technical part, actually, when you make a video, it is actually like a language, like learning French or German. You actually have a grammar, and that's your visual language. It's when you make shots, you make, total shots, you make medium shots, you make close-ups of something that you really want to see, something that's important. And that's basically the same with taking pictures also with, when you talk about photography, it's that particular perspective of you and your perspective of something that makes the viewer want to follow you on social media, want to see what you're doing, want to see, where you are, how it looks like. But it's very important to take your perspective, because you can take a picture of people, but we've seen so many pictures of people, and we've seen so many pictures of groups of people, but it's about your perspective. It's about what you see as a professional, of what is important, or what makes you laugh, or what makes you cry, or, And I think we're in 2021, you can be honest about it. And then you will get that relationship, and you will get engagement, and people want to follow you. So I thought for now, I think that's very important to mention. And also the technical part, you can always ask me. Also, when you make stuff, in the end, if I can edit your filmpjes, your videos, and in that way we can also work together. So I think for now, we don't have much time. So I think that's what I would like to say. And I will give you in the chat some links to YouTube channels. If you're really into, making good videos, they will tell you all about all the formats, how an iPhone works to film, what 4K is and all that. So I think
also, in addition to that, also the tips and tricks who is now on screen are also in a document going to you next week, I think, through Ilona.
Yeah, in the upcoming, good that you mentioned this, we are working on an update. The Dutch experts know the tips and tricks on communications. We shared it in Dutch for the 2 years now, I think. Mm-hmm. The English version will be available, but we will give it an update with all the new insights, and we can add interesting hyperlinks to YouTube videos as well with tips. So it will be there. I don't think the upcoming week, but somewhere in the upcoming weeks, we will share it with you.
Plus, we ourselves are actually starting a YouTube channel with tips and tricks on video and photography and infographics. That's, of course, a very nice way of communicating information. So we ourselves at the RVO are also starting. So you can always ask us questions. You can watch our videos. We still have to make them, but
with subtitles.
It's in the pipeline. So yeah.
Yeah.
Good to hear. Good to hear. Yeah. Thank you, Patrick. Are there any questions on videos except for the...
Or photography.
Or are you...
Or photography, yes.
Or infographic. I saw also a question, of course, or a thing about infographics can also be very powerful as well. If it's necessary, you can also ask Ilona to get in contact with me, and I can also make an infographic, or my team will.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's good to know that we make infographics for MHPSS and DSS Water, as well as we recently did for DRR team. I think it's good to mention, because now, of course, the tips and tricks are for you to make your pictures yourself. But what a good tip to mention is that you work for humanitarian organizations, and the UN often hires a photographer to go into the field. So, for example, Mirjam Klinkenberg, she was in Mozambique, and she went on a field trip right after the cyclone when she arrived, and there were videos and lots of pictures taken. So be aware that you can use them as well if you you ask the communication person or your contact person at the UN organization. So you don't always have to make the pictures yourself, but you can use the pictures that are available.
But to add for DRR, of course, that's different, but you're usually with a team, so also you can discuss together, like, who will maybe do the media to think of taking good pictures, etc. So you can talk about that together as a team. All right. Any comments on the video part? Oh, Terry, yeah, go ahead. Are you going to ask a question, Terry, or? Oh, maybe not.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I did actually. It's my connection that not very. I know in the past, Ilona has really tried to get stories from the field, and one challenge I normally have is just vulnerability of the groups of the people that we are working with. So I would take pictures in the field, but then when I'm asked for a story, I look at the picture again and I'm, oh no, this person's face was showing. Oh no, I can't share this. So looking at what Arnold and Mariah have shared, Mariah, I'm almost feeling like, where have I been, you know? But also it's just the sensitivity of the people that especially are receiving mental health and psychosocial services, but yet we still want people to know what we are doing in the field. How do we deal with the sensitivities? How long are we gonna take pictures of people, you know, maybe from the bank that we don't show their faces, and I don't know, just how to make it really work for MHPSS, I guess is what my question is.
Terry, if you look at the slide that is now presented, there's you see a woman sitting on her suitcase. So it's important to know that you again spot on know that not all people can be in a picture, or you have to ask, but you can always do it at the back, or in such a long distance that people are not recognizable. So again, in the new tips and tricks, we pay attention to the vulnerable group and give you tips about how to go about it. And of course, if you have any questions, please contact me, or I can help you contact Patrick or Shireen if you have any hesitations about the pictures. We can help you in that.
Maybe I can comment on that. I've also been a documentary maker for the last 20 years. So I've been in situations where you kind of feel awkward to ask permission, and you feel kind of like, you know, you're seeing a situation, you want to do something with it, but it sometimes feels strange and kind of, you know, disrespectful to do something. What I learned is when you have some kind of relationship with your topic, with your theme, like with people, it always works out, but you have to have some kind of connection with them. on a personal level, not on a professional level.
Like I would like to add to that like the majority of my pictures with people on it, it is actually not beneficiaries. It's generally like so UNICEF, you work with UNICEF, you're always with the implementation partner. So it's volunteers, or it's people that you work with, that you've been training. So it's not the actual beneficiary, it's somebody that you are in the field with. And then it's way more, that's exactly what you say, Patrick, that like to just do somebody you don't know, say, can I take your picture? It's very different.
It's always so awkward for everybody. It's just, it feels really strange and weird sometimes to do it, because you're kind of like, look at somebody suffering and then, hi.
Exactly.
So, but I think it's who you are and how you approach people, and how you approach them makes a huge difference. And then to be on the safe side, if they can sign a document or something like a quit claim, we call them, I don't know, maybe you have a different name, then, well, on the legal side, you're okay. I think I never had to use it.
If I could intervene here.
I'm sorry?
I agree with, I think that Mariah is making a very good distinction between beneficiaries and on the other hand, and I think not everyone is able to give consent. So as humanitarians, we also have a role in protecting the people. And some people that can sign the consent form don't even know how to read that consent form. In a previous training from the American Red Cross, they're very sensitive in regards of privacy, of course, and lawsuits. There it was like absolutely forbidden to even make photos without any consent, or to share them. And I shared a link where a sensitive picture, including all details about this person, has been shared, and that went viral. Meanwhile, this could threaten the person on the picture, or her family, or anyone else in her hometown in Syria, as it showed very sensitive info.
But I think for you guys, it's actually very important to kind of make, like, kind of draw a conclusion, because on one hand, with communication, you think we want to see people, we don't want to see them from the back, we want to see their eyes, we want to be vulnerable. At the same time, because of political sensitive issues and sensitive issues, it's the opposite message. So there's always kind of like a juxtaposition between what we would like to see and what is actually possible. And that, I think, is also a really interesting discussion for maybe later, to see like what can we do within a social media context where people want to see. They want to see it, and they don't understand that it's, you know, sometimes sensitive issues. So yes. I think that particular part is a very difficult part to grasp for people in the field to, you know, make their pictures and their videos.
Thank you very much, Patrick. And I'd like to add that we also, in the manual, I think we will sending later, there's a very clear guidelines on the sensitivities, what we can do and what we can do. But you already mentioned social media, and I think that's a good.
Yes, that was a little bridge.
Yeah, a little bridge. We'll move on to Mila, and will tell us a bit more about social media, use of social media.
Yes. Hi, I'm Mila Bahadur from the social media team at RVO, the NL Enterprise Agency. And yeah, what's it all about on social media? It's all about attention, about giving and getting attention and making conversation or being the conversation. You can compare it with a network event. You're not going to sit down in a corner or be the fly on the wall. You're going to communicate. And but of course also is, why do you use social media? You have several ways. I heard a question from how do we make efficient use of social media? Now, it's all about getting inspired, making inspiring content, and target your audience on the right channels with your content, and in this case, your stories, I heard. But first, before you do that, I have some advice how you put yourself in the spotlights on your profile. Could you go back or further, Miriam? You can read all those tips and tricks. after, because we have not much time. Okay, your profile, how do you do that? Now, if you go to a network event, you look well and you go prepared. This also means for your social media account. I have some tips. Maybe when you make an account on LinkedIn, or in this case, Instagram or Facebook, you can mention that you are a DSS water expert, but that doesn't say much to the people. You can also say DSS water expert helping people in emergency settings, or MHPPS expert helping people with their mental issues in disaster areas. That is another kind of look and feeling. Could you please go to the other? Yeah, use an inspiring header. So I mentioned that, yes. Use a catchy headline, add a summary, give some more information of your work, what you're doing, the why, the how. Add a call to action. Maybe you can put some websites where they can read more about the DSS or DRR of MHPPS, and appropriate hashtags. We will go on that further. And ask your network to follow you. Just ask them to follow you on your profile. Can you get further? Yeah, inspirations. In this case, I wanted to explain where do you get your inspiration, but I heard all the other people here for. You are the inspiration in this case. Your story is the inspiration. So yes, I wanted to focus on that, and not because you can also get inspiration of your work, of newsletters, of your own social media, the people who you are following, or you can add RSS and put that on your account. But I want to focus on your stories. What is a good ingredients for good messages? Draw attention, stimulate, and be relevant. Use relevant hashtags. Use name or videos. Name relevant people or organizations. Mention relevant people or organizations. Make it personal. You heard the other experts before how they do it. And provide interaction. Get a call to action to go to a website or to read more, but also keep up what's trending. And I will explain further on the hashtags. Oh yes, the video and vlogging. Here's Sarah. I know she's also in the audience, but it was a very good example of how to put a video and vlogging. So if you can see the link here, and then you can listen to Sarah how she did it. Hashtags. Which one do you use and why? Yes. Hashtags are not the same every time. They have to be recognizable to your audience, connect to the content, increase engagement. Which hashtags do you use? Does your target audience use? Relevant hashtags for you are DSS Water, MHPPS, and NL DRR team. What do I mean with it? It increases your engagement. If you add a hashtag, then people who follow the hashtags will see your post, or who will search on certain hashtags, your post will appear in their search results. And why do you mention people? Yes, when you mention people, your post will appear on their timeline, and the people who follow them will also see your post. So it increases your reach and also engagement when somebody who doesn't follow you like your post on the account of NVP, for example. This has also been a necessity to take into account the social media regulations in a country. What can and can't you post on social media? What are the rules? And take culture and politics into account. You can search it up also on Google, but when you're in the field and you are with counterparts or in contact with the embassy, you can also ask them what the regulations are, or you can ask the questions to Ilona or our team. And we will look it up for you if you have hesitations on that. And most important, Patrick also said it, show a human face, also as a company, but in your case, as yourself, human to human communication is the key. So it can add warmth and emotion that helps support an intended tone of your message. So it will help. And I also have another tip. If you comment on your post or on a post from another person, please keep in mind that the person that you are addressing is reading this, but also other people who follow the post on the platform. That was my last tip.
Thank you very much, Mila. All right, I'd like to ask the experts, what are your experiences with the use of social media during missions? Did you use it, or using Twitter? What were your good experiences? What were your bad experiences? Would you like to share, the DRR experts or the DSS experts?
Well, maybe I have an experience I would like to share. Just a general comment. I think my best pictures I never took. That's basically my problem. So sometimes afterwards I have these images still in my mind that I wish I would have taken a picture that would have really said it all, but I didn't. Huh? And I remember, for example, one clear example of a situation in Mozambique also. And after a flood, there were people just going on with their regular life, sitting in a small kiosk, drinking their beer and talking about whatever they were discussing. And they were just carrying on their life. And I think that was so much capturing the way that these people live with floods there, with their feet in the water while drinking a beer. So those pictures I never took. And so that's one thing I wanted to share. And another thing also, some pictures that I did have afterwards were maybe very nice pictures, but I didn't feel that they portrayed maybe the right message. Sometimes, when you have pictures of a team, people have the tendency to smile, of course. And then you're there in the situation and you have a story that's maybe not such a happy story. But at that particular moment, maybe the team was happy and you have a couple of smiling people on the picture. So those were then maybe nicer for my own memory, but not very good to tell the story. That was just a thing I wanted to share.
So Freek, what could help you and all other experts to know what kind of pictures to make? Would it help to have a little checklist when you get a briefing for a mission? Think of 5 different kind of pictures. For example, we are always looking for your story, the story of the expert, and a picture of you. For example, the picture of Marij in the boat working with local people is always a photo we're looking for. So we can make a little short list or checklists for experts. Think of this and this and this kind of pictures. Would that help?
Well, yes, sure. At least it wouldn't harm. Huh? So I think at that moment, you still have to really take the moment and get the right timing to get the right picture. Maybe just another tip also that I could give what could maybe help. If you are in a team, it helps, of course, to take pictures of each other. Huh? And even if your team member doesn't really know that you're taking the picture, you can always throw them away at the end. But and do that for each other also, so that everybody is kind of captured.
And in that way, you have a more spontaneous picture than a setting where you stand in front of a picture. So less spontaneous than when you make of each other during the work you're doing. Yeah. Makes it real again.
Yeah.
If I can give a tip, Ilona, if you're going to shoot some pictures, keep in mind your storytelling. Why are you there? What are you going to do there? How are you going to help the people? But mostly important, what is the effect of your work for the people in those areas? If you shoot that kind of pictures, then our team can make a great story about it and can make a great film about it. So maybe that's another tip I can give to you all.
Thank you. Maybe can I share an experience as well?
Please.
I think I was a team last year, the team leader for a DRR mission to Myanmar, and I think we sent out some tweets there. But first thing is I don't have a Twitter account, so that's a bit of a challenge then. But I can use then my company's Twitter account to do that. But what I noticed is that during such a mission, you are so extremely busy with thinking about what to do the next hour, where to go tomorrow, what did we see yesterday, how just to get a complete picture of what you're doing and what you're working at, that creating any content for any communication is often well not high on the agenda, to be honest. And it's not that we don't want to, but it's just because you're so focused on other stuff that you have to do.
Well,
so then it's good that I know that from FVO every now and then you get an email or a request like, hey, do something. So I would say you should please keep on doing that. But
oh, that's good to know that we can help you in that way, because we don't want to stalk people or spam people, but it's good to know that there's a positive side in that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I also think that, of course, you're focusing on your job, and at the same time, and you're in the moment, at the same time, you have to construct reality. I mean, if I start doing a video, I already beforehand think I'm gonna make a video. What are the images? So you have like a two-way brain. On one hand, you see what's going on the other hand, you're constructing images in your head, or you think like, oh, maybe in half an hour, this and this is gonna happen. So you're already thinking about what your scenery is and all that. So I can imagine it's very difficult to do your job and at the same time trying to construct images. So that's, and therefore, yeah, most of the time afterwards you think, oh, I should have taken that picture or that video. So that's like, it's almost like a schizophrenic brainwave where you have to like do it separately. On one hand, making pictures, on the other hand, doing your job. So that's a difficult task.
It is difficult. I was thinking maybe room for one last question. I mean, there's so much more to discuss, but we're actually already out of time. But maybe one last comment, advice, or question from one of you. Soef, I saw you raise your hand before, or is your question already answered? Oh, okay.
No, I was complimenting Marco Hartman, because I can imagine that there are so many competing priorities in the field that taking pictures is like...
Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine that.
Except for the drainage systems.
Yeah. All right. I think that's it for now then. Thank you all so much. And a special thanks, of course, to the experts from the field, Marije and Arnold, but also all of you who had the time to join us, share your experiences, and take the time for this workshop. I hope you learned something. I hope it was helpful for your next mission. And yeah, thank you very much. And as we mentioned before, we will be sending the recording afterwards to other experts and you. And also there will be a tips and trick list, which will be dispersing later on. That's it for now. Thank you all.
Can I add just tips and tricks? My email address is there, so please do not hesitate to contact me if you have any concerns about communication or questions. Please let me know, and I can see how I can help you with that, or one of my colleagues from communications.
That's for all programs.
Yeah, that's I'm communication advisor for all, so DRR, DSS, MHPSS. So yeah, it was good meeting you all.
All right. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day.